Welcome to Dumpster Times, issue 21, hashtag Trump Trials edition. Are you talking about the Trump trials at the office, at home, over the dinner table? Did you talk about it over the Thanksgiving holiday? Who thinks he's guilty? Who thinks he's going to skate through, even if he is guilty? What's going to happen? Are you into it or not? It seems to me that for a long time, people got really bored with Donald Trump. I admit I was one of them, even though he was in charge and wrecking our country, I just didn't want to hear about him anymore. But then when we supposedly defeated him, he decided, hey, I don't want to leave. And he convinced a bunch of his cronies to help him stay in. We ain't gonna leave. No way, no how. That's the dream. It almost happened. And he wants to do it again. He wants to get almost elected again and seize power and become an authoritarian like Putin, like Netanyahu, like all of those people who are authoritarians and destroying their countries. Today, we're going to talk about the Trump trials because I've been into them. And the reason I've been into them is I want to follow it through to the logical outcome, which is Trump is evicted, convicted, dejected, rejected, sent to prison. You think? Will that outcome happen? Well, in order to study it thoroughly, I have been drawing the characters involved in the Trump trials. And I started it when they posted the picture of all of the RICO defendants, their mugshots, all on one big page. Oh, look at those mugshots. Look at that weird lighting. Wow, those are great portraits. What if I drew them? And I immediately flashed back 50 years ago, the summer of 1973. I was a college student, just about ready to graduate, watching the Nixon Watergate hearings. And I sat there with my notebook and I sketched the characters involved in that proceedings. Yeah, it was very exciting. And the thing that was exciting about it was that it actually worked. The system worked and Nixon was gone. Nixon, the worst president. Now, of course, no matter who is president, I am thinking of them as the worst at the moment because they're probably doing horrible things, like the current one is genociding away. But we can't get distracted. We're going to talk about the Trump trials, because 50 years later, I have the opportunity to really do some good drawings and study the characters of these people who thought that they could just follow Trump to some kind of authoritarian paradise. They believed him. They believed it was all a lie. The election was stolen. Now, as I have worked on the drawings of these characters, some are prosecutors, some are judges, some are defendants. I have been reading up about them, watching them in action if at all possible. And I look forward to finishing up the last of the RICO characters so that I can relax and start listening and watching the trials as they happen. The Georgia one will eventually be videoed, the whole thing. Right now, any little hearings that the judge has to do in Georgia, Judge McAfee, that is all on video. So that I want to sit down and sketch some of those in action live shots. I want to talk about this project, where I am with it, and some of my thoughts. Now, over the weekend, Donald Trump showed up to a football game in South Carolina. And there are a lot of people who didn't like him being there and they booed him when he arrived. And that was pretty cool. because we've been used to seeing all these staged Trump rallies with his Trump MAGA legions following and worshiping at his feet. But in this situation, he showed up, guest of the governor, and there were a lot of people who just said, F you, go home, go to jail, lock him up, etc. That's good. Seems like it's a little change from when it was just total all love MAGA stuff. When I first considered doing this, I took a look at those RICO defendants. I thought, oh, these are perfect. But I don't have mugshots for the prosecutors or the judges. So I had to find professional headshots online, and it wasn't too difficult. The first one I did was Fani Willis, and I was totally into her determined facial expression. She just, nothing's going to get by this woman, thank goodness. And she's the kind of prosecutor, I think, who can look Donald Trump in the eye and not take his bullshit and just let him stew in his own juices, which I think is going to happen in Georgia, because this case has got it's already got people who have admitted their guilt and are willing to testify, as we'll get to them. All right, another prosecutor. This is the great Jack Smith. Oh, I wouldn't want to cross him either. Look at that man. He is tough looking. He's a man of few words. He is on top of things. He's dealing with all of the Trump lawyer tactics. The Trump people keep filing things, brief after brief, delay, stop, whatever. And Jack Smith is right there with his response on top of things. So this is Alvin Bragg. We haven't heard too much about him because he is prosecuting the Stormy Daniels hush money case, and that one's kind of sunk below the other ones, but he'll have his day, I'm sure. This is Judge McAfee in Georgia. He was a Republican appointee, but he is turning out to be very solidly unbiased, square, fair dealing, listens to both sides, and it's going to be exciting watching him handle the whole case. This is Judge Chutkan, who we have heard a lot from and about lately. She is, yes, she's the judge on the DC case against Trump and 6 unindicted co-conspirators. All right, now she has sent a gag order to an appeals court. They're all trying to figure out how to keep Trump from intimidating people, and more on that in a minute. This is Judge Eileen Cannon in the Florida District, federal judge who is totally in the pocket of Trump, appointed by Trump, and is delaying the trial so that there's no possible way it can happen before the election in the fall. So she's one of those hoping against hope that Trump wins in the fall, and then everything she does will be just thrown away because he will forgive himself and fire everybody in the federal justice system. All right. Now, this judge, we've heard a lot of Judge Angoran. He's actually already decided that Trump and Trump's company are frauds. What he's doing now is holding hearings on how much money they're going to fine the Trump organization based on the frauds that they committed over the years. This guy's a wonderful character. He plays in a jazz band, I think. Judge Angoran, he's driven a taxi cab, played in a band, and protested the Vietnam War. As a New York City judge, Arthur Angoran has resolved hundreds of disputes, deciding everything from zoning and free speech issues to a custody fight over a dog named Stevie. Quite the character, and he has been in the news a lot because Trump started attacking his law clerk. There are gag orders now being appealed in Georgia. in this case and in Chutkan's court. And it seems to me that all of the judges and district attorneys are being faced with what to do with a person who does not submit to the norms. Donald Trump will not tell the truth. He will lie over and over again. And he expects to just be given a pass on that. When is he going to be faced with the fact that he's lying or that he's intimidating or bullying, which is what he likes to do? That's what authoritarians do. They bully. And it begins young and it grows and grows until they are such bullies that they are thinking about taking over the government of a country and bullying all of the citizens within it. That's where we are with Donald Trump. So we are waiting to find out from various appeals courts. They're trying to narrow the gag order and add in no threats on using social media, because that wasn't in the template for gag orders prior to this case. Donald Trump has just taken social media and employed it in ways that are toxic. All right, so those are the judges. Here are a couple of people who are witnesses. This was one of Trump's assistants, no longer employed by him, but she is going to testify to the fact that he had boxes and boxes of secret files hidden all over Mar-a-Lago, not even hidden, just stuffed here and there. This is Cassidy Hutchinson. She was Mark Meadows' assistant. She's written a book. She was a Republican, but now she's probably an independent. And she is, she's spilling the beans on Trump and her bosses. And Trump, I'm not giving him the satisfaction of or the time for a real portrait. He's just a poop emoji. Now let's look at some of the characters I have drawn, some that are still being worked on. And what I've learned from this project, a lot of it I've learned is personal drawing, because I don't have a history of doing portraits. I've maybe done a handful over my 70 years of life. Just not something that, I'm going to just be a portrait artist. No. But I do like the challenge of looking at something and trying to bring it to life in 2 dimensions on paper. And so there's Rudy, Mark Meadows. You'll notice that the styles are that I'm searching for my style, or I'm trying to respond to the photo and the character of the person. I can't quite figure it out yet, but this is Cheese Bro. What a character he was. He was a good liberal lawyer doing his thing. Law clerked for Lawrence Tribe. Then a few years back, he got into Bitcoin, made a shitload of money, and suddenly started hanging out with the Trumpers and came up with the whole fake electors plot himself. So now he's in a shitload of trouble. He's already pleaded guilty. And in order to lighten his sentence, he's been called up by various states to go to them and testify all about the fake electors plot, like Arizona, Michigan, and so forth. All right, Cheese Boy, redemption arc. John Eastman hasn't decided to do anything yet. He's one of the true villains. Been a total Trump, racist, white supremacist person all of his life. Let's take a look at Jeffrey Clark, Assistant Deputy Against the Environment, or should I say, former Assistant Deputy. He worked for Trump, squirmed his way right into the inner circle where he could carry out his intentions to destroy the environment. He got his start in the George W. Bush administration, and he is a total scumbag. Now he has nowhere to turn, nowhere to go. He's backed into a corner, stuck with Trump. May he suffer the worst effects of climate change for the rest of his life. Jeffrey Clark. Here's one who has taken a plea. Yes, she has. Sidney Powell, the great unhinged, suddenly found her hinges and is trying to pull her life back together again by taking a plea. Jenna Ellis, she is the poster child for do not homeschool your children. She has also pleaded guilty, has seen that the road ahead is not a good one, and has sobbed in court as she proffered her apology. And here's David Schaefer. He was a Georgia fake elector and former chair of the Republican Party there. Quality Republicans. Sean Still. False elector and Georgia state senator. This is Kathy Latham. She was involved in the group of people who broke into a voting machine and allowed it to be tampered with in Coffee County. And that was a whole little subplot of people who did that, including her, Misty Hampton, former Coffee County, Georgia election supervisor. 7 charges, including racketeering, conspiracy to commit election fraud, and conspiracy to defraud the state. This is Scott Hall. He has also pleaded guilty. He was a local bail bondsman and sort of got roped into it accidentally. Decided, hey, I'm not going to take everybody else's guilt upon me, and pleaded guilty. This is Harrison Floyd, former leader of Black voters for Trump. 3 charges, including racketeering, conspiracy to commit to false writings, and conspiracy to influence witnesses. He has pleaded not guilty. Floyd has long been a Trump supporter, but became involved with the other defendants after responding to a call from Lee. He then reportedly recruited defendant Trevion Coote's assistance in trying to talk to Ruby Freeman, the Atlanta election worker pro-Trump forces accused of fraud. The indictment claims he participated in an intimidation scheme. And now what he's done is continued to intimidate people involved in the election, including Ms. Freeman and her daughter. The prosecution has long lists of emails, letters, phone calls, threatening messages sent to this woman. She's had to move from her house on recommendation of the FBI because she's been doxxed. And for some reason, we are still in court deciding whether or not it is legal to gag Donald Trump and his minions and prevent them from stirring up violence toward his enemies. That's what's going on. So this is an extremely important person in terms of what happens to him may very well determine what happens to Trump. It's so shocking, and no one has really said anything about it, but he's behaving the same way Trump does. And I don't know whether he is doing it knowingly or unwittingly. or if knowingly is testing the waters, leading the way for his boss. Let's see what they do to me. Will they do it to Trump? I don't know. But what happened was he skated by this time, was not sent to prison. The judge said, well, we have to rewrite the gag order because it doesn't match what is the reality of communications in this century. And so social media restrictions were put on the gag order, and it was made very clear that if he disobeys this time, he will be facing charges such as jail time. All right. And here's my drawing of him. I really got into this drawing. I don't know. It took me a long time. It's the African American challenge for a white person drawing a person of different ethnicity. You really have to observe and try to be respectful. All right, here's another guy, Mike Roman. We haven't heard much about him, and I'm looking forward to hearing about him because you know where he got his start? Working for the Koch brothers in their communications department. Koch brothers, in case you didn't know, there's only one left who's alive, but they're still doing evil things, would come up with conservative right-wing legislation, write it up, and ship it out to GOP legislators all around the country. And that's how he got his start. Then he attached himself to the Trump regime and was heavily involved with the plot to take over the country. I like this drawing. By the way, it's my most recent. The guy looks like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting indicted. The last four characters are sketches, preliminaries. Oh, this guy, Robert Shealy, is a trial attorney in Georgia. Amazing how many trial attorneys are going down for Donald Trump. He's got 10 charges against him, including racketeering, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, and conspiracy to commit false statements. He was a local lawyer who represented Trump. He was a fake elector. And he is best known for testifying at a Georgia legislative hearing, making false allegations of miscounting and election fraud under oath. Uh-oh. All right, this guy is Ray Smith, former Trump 2020 campaign attorney in Georgia. He has 12 charges against him. Connection to the case. Smith was previously a staffer in the Georgia Attorney General's office and served as Trump's local attorney. Another one. Dangerous job being Trump's attorney. In Georgia during the 2020 campaign, Smith is named for testifying at a Georgia State Senate hearing and perpetuating election lies there, as well as participating in an election challenge in Georgia State Court. Additionally, he is accused of presenting Georgia House members to support alternative electors. He's accused of pressuring Georgia House representatives to appoint alternative electors. Next up, oh, this guy's a minister. Stephen Lee, Illinois pastor and Trump supporter. 5 charges, including racketeering, attempting to influence witnesses, and conspiracy to commit solicitation of false statements and writings. Before the 2020 election, Lee was a traveling pastor who specialized in ministering to law enforcement post-crisis. A Trump supporter, he went to the home of election worker Ruby Freeman, whom pro-Trump conspiracy theorists accused of helping to illegally swing the election for Biden. When the police came to the house, Lee told them, "I'm a pastor and I'm also working with some folks who are trying to help Ruby out and also get to some truth of what's going on." He went on to connect with co-defendant Harrison Floyd, asking for his assistance in talking to Freeman. reportedly believing that Freeman, a Black woman, would respond more positively to Floyd, a Black man. Lee's efforts, the indictment claims, constitute intimidation of Atlanta election officials and illegal influencing of witnesses. That guy's face is unbelievable. And last, but not least, this drawing of a woman who looks like an elf or something. Her name is, and if I'm not pronouncing it right, Trevion Kuti. She posed for her booking photo just like that and was wearing the fashion clothes here. She is a Trump supporter and former publicist for celebrities like Kanye West. 3 charges, including racketeering, conspiracy to commit solicitation of false statements, and conspiracy to influence witnesses. Kuti traveled from her base of operations in Chicago to Atlanta after speaking with Floyd. Once there, she reportedly went to Freeman's home, told her she'd been sent by an unnamed, high-profile individual, and gave Freeman an ultimatum: confess to election crimes or go to jail. Freeman called the police and was ultimately told by the FBI to relocate for her own safety. Kuti, like Floyd and Lee, is now accused of being involved in Freeman's intimidation and of influencing a witness. All right, Trump trials. If you want to follow these further, check out wsddrawings.blogspot.com and you'll find me there. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.